welcome to our special episode in honour of International Women's Day. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Aly Abel, the Head of UX Research at Storio Group. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Of course, I've worked with you quite a lot in the past few years, but for our viewers' purposes, can you please introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about you, really?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. It's a huge honour to be part of this today. You know, International Women's Day is a fantastic initiative. So I am Aly, and I am, as you said, I'm Head of Research, and I have been working in research for 15 years. I started out as an analyst, moved into the NHS, and then I switched to agency. And then about 4 years ago, I moved into the fantastic, and I do mean that fantastic, world of tech, which is obviously UX research and design. And the company I work for, Storio Group, formerly Aly Abel Photobox Group, for those of listeners that might be more familiar with that name. We sell online photo products, so books and calendars. Anyone who's wondering my accent, I'm from the Wirral, so near Liverpool originally, and I studied French and marketing management at university. In case it's of interest. I think that's about it.
Nice. So obviously you've had such an incredible kind of career from where you started as well. Can you highlight are there any pivotal moments in your career that you had, especially within the UX research and design space, that led you to where you are now?
Wow, what a question. It's really hard, isn't it, to think about the pivotal moments, because I actually feel like every day brings something new, and I think I'm the kind of person that does seek out quite a lot of challenges. I like to be in a situation where I don't necessarily know how to operate, what the answer is, what the solution is. And I think that the world of UX research and design offers you that, because you are collaborating with a very diverse mix of personalities and roles, and you're able to sort of move into a new space with all these people and sort of go, we don't know where we are, let's figure out the process together. So I honestly feel like the moments, the little moments that matter, and they really do change my way of thinking every single day. However, it's a good question, and I probably should call out some pivotal moments that do stand out. If I'm honest, I have worked since I was 11, 12, and I went full-time when I was 15, 16. And then all through university, I did work about 3 jobs. It was partly because needed to pay the bills, but actually it was more a choice. I wanted to be learning and putting myself in different environments and learning from lots of different people. And it's quite interesting, because by the time I graduated, I almost felt like I'd lived a whole lifetime of working. And so I kind of probably went in feeling quite confident that I would know what I was doing. And actually, even though I felt quite well versed in stakeholder management, honestly, I probably knew nothing about myself. And the pivotal moments in my career have always been about the self-reflection, the feedback that's often felt harsh at first, but then when I've reflected on it and worked with mentors and coaches and recruiters like yourself to sort of reflect on what's coming through, I've actually learned a lot more, and it's sort of changed my way of thinking and set me off on a completely different path. And if you look at my LinkedIn, for example, my CV, it actually looks like a really natural progression for a researcher through the different job roles. Actually, if you look a bit deeper, you see that they are very different challenges. I've often sidestepped into new companies and gone into a completely different environment. Strategy, for example, or I've switched completely to consumer research from healthcare, which was a completely different environment. And it's often felt quite scary. And if you look at those timestamps on my CV, they are pivotal moments when I've had an aha moment, usually through a mentor or a therapist, coach, a manager, a challenge that I've gone through as a woman, as an individual in an organisation, and I've suddenly thought, I'm ready to go and try something different. So those pivotal moments are the self-reflections, and they genuinely time-stamped across my CV, to be honest.
And I guess for you, that's kind of where it brings you today, to be honest, and what makes you the researcher that you are and the leader that you are, which obviously makes sense. And you kind of touched upon about mentorship and stuff. Obviously you're at quite a senior level now at Storio Group. Have you had any particular mentors within your career, I guess, even where you are now or previously, wherever, both from a professional perspective, but also, I guess, from a personal perspective, that helps drive you kind of to be that leader? Have you had anyone in that kind of in your life, really?
Yeah, I have. I've had, and they've been every gender, to be honest. I think that naturally, as a woman in the past, I have sort of lent towards women and looked up to women as mentors because of the challenges I've faced. But actually, over the years, I've learned that you need diversity, you need different perspectives that are completely different from your own to widen your understanding of the situation that you're in. And through those mentors, and I generally tend to go seek out mentors when I have a specific problem. It's not sort of every week, every month. It's when I'm dealing with something that I just can't figure my way out of, and I think I need to think of it from a different angle. And some of the situations that I've gone through with mentors, and particularly in the world of UX research as well, in tech, I've had to learn to let go of perfection. So I've worked with mentors on that. I've had to learn to know how to stop saying yes, because even though I feel like I'm helping the company and being a martyr, actually you're not helping the company in any way at all, because you're not teaching them that we need to broaden the number of the team or think about capacity. So that's been a huge learning for me, and I wouldn't have got there if it hadn't have been for mentors in different roles. I've also had to learn about how I communicate. I'm a poor communicator for a researcher, and that's probably because I've come from a certain environment in my upbringing, in terms of I've come from an area where you can speak very direct. Scousers, Liverpudlians are very blunt in their form of communication. I've worked in restaurants and pubs and bars and in a gymnasium with weight trainers, where you don't think about how you say things and how you frame things, just say it. And actually, over the course of my career, I've had to learn that your style of communication is hugely important. And where I've looked back on challenges I've faced in my career, it's because I've been complaining and I've actually played the role of a victim, instead of thinking, who is the audience? What is the point I'm trying to make? What is the outcome I'm trying to get to? And again, I would not have had that understanding of myself. And it's taken me even to now in my career as a head of, even recently, to realise that it's a lifelong process, and I will always have to work on that, like all of us. But I definitely have to work on that more than others, I think.
Sure. But to be fair, like, it's ironic because obviously you're in the world of research and you're saying that it's the feedback, and I guess even more so that you get it, like that's what you're looking for in UX research, but you've managed to be able to further develop because of the feedback that you're getting, if that makes sense. So that makes sense. And obviously you're at the leadership level. I mean, how do you actively support and mentor the individuals below, like more towards in your team, I guess, like mentoring downwards?
Yeah, I think that you don't need to be a leader to mentor in an organization. You don't need the job title of manager or head or director or whatever, to recognize that we all represent, we all symbolize and should be thinking about progression and development and helping each other through support and collaboration. I think it's worth saying that not all managers are meant to be managers. It can be a bit of potluck, and you have to take ownership and responsibility for your own development and seek out people in the organisation and externally, those people that will support and collaborate and enable you to be the better version of yourself. So for me, I think through active learning as a manager, and podcasts and listening to different perspectives, and even listening to my husband, who's a manager as an engineer in a different organisation, listening to his objective viewpoints. I'm able to constantly iterate and learn on my approach to how I mentor. Within my team, I probably put myself more as in the visionary leader spectrum. I'm very much, I don't believe in hierarchies. I think that hierarchy can be quite stifling for people. I think you set very clear roles, responsibilities, and expectations, and then it's all about trust and respect and kindness, and more importantly, listening and learning and adapting to those situations. So in my team, we foster a very, very, very collaborative, flat model where we set a vision together, we set goals, and then ultimately it's the responsibility of the individuals, because they're hired to do a job, to go and do a job. However, that almost comes across as though I'm sort of setting an agenda or whatever and then disappearing off. It's not the case at all. We're a diverse team. We are men, women, different countries, different skin colour, different languages, because we have to represent our customers and connect with them. But we have a structure in place. So we have research walkthroughs twice a week, half an hour, where people can bring ideas or pieces of work that they want feedback on. I, as a mentor, stand back and I let other people have opinions first and share their thinking, because it's their development that matters most. And then I think, is there any value here that I can add? Or actually, no, the team nailed it. I don't need to add anything here. So sort of make sure that there's that structure in place for collaboration. What else do we do? We have agendas for one-to-ones. So again, the team, the individual is in full control of what they want to talk about. There is some structure in there, but generally I let them lead. And I will check that agenda beforehand so that I'm prepared, so that I'm not coming in and going, oh, what we talked about today? I've thought about it, I've reflected on it, and I've answers for them. But a lot of the conversation is coaching. It's what do you think and how would you want to get there, to see if they can, it's coaching technique. Same with, as I said at the very beginning, my last point, we all have the capacity to be a mentor. In fact, my one-to-one with one of my colleagues in my team just before this call, I mentioned that I was meeting you today. And she was like, what points are you making? And I was saying, well, I think about this and think about that. And she was like, well, what about, the fact that, men are victims of sexism, and the fact that, because they lack diversity, and it's in our genders, we're corrupted from infancy, and, our genders are defined. She was like, we shouldn't be thinking about, starting a war with men. It's about together what outcomes we're trying to get to. So she was coaching me on the point of raising today. So that's the point. It's about learning from each other and listening.
And it shows, because it's just being able to have people who can have a voice. It's not, as you say, not having that hierarchy thing, I'm top here and you need to kind of be able to work up to me. It's almost having that active conversation, which makes sense and makes you an effective leader. So I'm going to flip it as well now, Aly. Sorry, I'm putting another one in the spanners. So obviously how you're going to mentor downwards. How do you mentor upwards? So if you're going to work with kind of senior stakeholders, how do you kind of get around that as well? Especially also as a woman as well. So I'm putting a spanner in the works there. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. You're totally right. And that's the point. I think we should be acknowledging that, just because you're in a manager role or a leadership role, it doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about or you know what you're doing and learn. I'm all for Radical Candor, which is obviously a book. If anyone, is looking for ways to give feedback, I'm a big believer in honesty and transparency. So in my teams, I'm part of a leadership team. We bring problems and opportunities and ideas to the mix. And I think that actually, if we talk about being a woman for a second, if we think about challenges generally, it doesn't matter what gender we are,
Yeah.
you will always face challenges in your role. And I think that if you're not being challenged, could be a conscious choice, but you're missing the opportunity to learn and grow and allow the company to progress forward and learn and grow itself and lead to better outcomes. But I think that in some ways, there are two battles we have as women or as people that want to push gender equality.
Yeah.
And I think the first battle is, do you want to feel like your voice is heard in an organisation that doesn't foster gender equality? Or two, do you want to enable that company to get to better outcomes through diversity and inclusion and equality? And through that, become the best version of yourself, a better colleague to work with, and ultimately a respected woman or gender.
Yeah.
And I've sort of in my career tackled both sides, both fights, and I've found that the latter approach, sort of that outcome focused battle fight, is for me personally is a much better approach to take because it leads to more successful outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think that when you want to manage upwards, you've got to remember that it's not personal. It's about profit and success of the business half of the time. And you can't just get annoyed and feel victimized because you don't have a seat at the table or you don't feel heard as a person in the organization. What you need to do is come with ideas, identify opportunities, and back it up with data, which is obviously my research I had coming through there.
Yeah.
And if I give you an example, so recently our senior leadership team wanted to get closer to customers. And I know from experience that in a more male-dominated leadership team, you can't go in with fluffy ideas around customers feeling like they need to be heard in the same way that women feel like they need to be heard. It doesn't work because you're dealing with numbers and strategy. So the approach I took was I went into that organisation and managed upwards by saying, that meeting, and managed upwards by saying, this isn't about the one individual customer, this is the, but it's enabling you to understand those problems because we're going to overlay lots of data and problems at a higher level. It will help you build a better strategy, and it will help you have better conversations with your teams about what they are doing to drive change in the organisation. And taking that idea forward, it's impossible for a leader not to listen because they're hearing the benefits. So that's how I found managing upwards works. It's taken a long time for me to get here, but that's the message you need to adapt that message and think about the audience that's listening.
100%.
But my final point on that is you may be in organizations that you're doing this already and you think, well, I'm still not being heard. Well, why do you want to work for a company like that? It's about driving change, for the better. And the smart companies out there are looking for the smartest people with the smartest ideas. They're going to snap those people up.
100%.
So managing upwards, I think that you have to be, the motto I have in my head is sort of be the best woman or person, or be the woman that everyone wants to work with. Don't be the victim that's complaining about that one man or one person's complaint about you or feedback that weakens you. It makes you feel weaker.
So, absolutely.
No,
I think that's such good advice for anyone that's out there that wants to almost have a seat at C-suite almost. So it's almost like it gives them I guess almost like a bit of an agenda of how they are able to do that, irregardless if you're a man or a woman or whatever, regardless. So no, that's really, really fantastic advice. So obviously I know we're doing this kind of podcast around International Women's Day. I know it's a big term and it's a big thing, especially within the community. But what does International Women's Day mean to you? I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts, Alice.
So So whenever this comes up every year, I always actually reflect on the relationships in my life, all genders. But if we start with the women, so it's a big month for birthdays in my group of friends. A lot of us have March birthdays. Mine's in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
So we're going to be going out for cocktails tomorrow, obviously.
Love that.
And yes, and actually, the point I'm trying to make is, if I think about the women I'm meeting tomorrow, we are meeting a detective that specialises in rape, a matron of an oncology hospital, a client services director, an account director, a producer, a videographer, a designer. These women are, on paper, hugely successful in their careers, and they are amazing to listen to because they have such good insight into the world of work. Now, forget their careers, because actually the more important thing is the sort of diversity that sits underneath all of that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, this really represents, International Women's Day, because that group of individuals, we met by circumstance. We have not grown up in the same place. We are all from very, very different upbringings. We had very different incomes coming through, in our families growing up. We've got women in the group, 3 women that have babies that are mums, and they've got they're actually raising their children in completely different areas to the families. So they are relying on us as the tribe to support them through that experience. And be there for them. We've got women in the group like myself that have chosen not to have children. So we have a completely different perspective to bring to the conversation. The women are diverse in sexuality, they're diverse in skin colour. So when we come together, personality styles alone are completely the opposite. We challenge each other. There isn't a topic we don't talk about. It's politics, it's philosophy, it's religion, it's ASOS is on sale, it's everything. There's nothing we don't talk about in the course of 4 hours, and all at once, because that's how we operate. And they are my mentors, my soulmates, and I'm incredibly lucky to have them in my life. However, the other point I want to make is they're all healthy women that have consciously chosen to have healthy relationships with their partners. So a lot of the men in our group have a beautiful attitude towards women and gender equality. And as a group, we thrive. We are vulnerable with each other. We're emotional. We're affectionate. We develop our own individual relationships. So, as an example, I was at a TEDx conference with one of the guys on Sunday. I'm actually hiking Kilimanjaro with another of the guys in October. And honestly, besides my husband, he's the person that I wouldn't want to hike. I wouldn't want to hike with anyone else. He's the perfect hiking partner. The guy who we both like geopolitics, so we swapped books. And he screenshotted the book at the weekend because he's in Finland and that's the book he's reading. My husband, I could go on for a bit. My husband has a French toast club with one of the girls.
I love that.
I know, it's amazing. They're both sugar fiends, so they send each other cookies, Kahuna cookies. That's a thing, if anyone knows that online. And they meet outside their offices for lunch every month, and they go and have a date and have French toast. So the point I'm trying to make is, International Women's Day for me is a reflection on the greatness of these women and the respect I have for them in consciously choosing to have wonderful men and different genders in their lives, and enriching all of us to be better people with different perspectives every day. So that's what it is to me.
And that's amazing, because it's like it's as you say, it's not actually kind of going against a different kind of gender. It's actually how are we working together to get, and as you said, you've done it in your career to get the outcome that, I guess, from, if we're talking from a business perspective, to get it, as you say, like whether that's profit or the engagement, which is amazing. So that's really fantastic. But have there been any challenges that you've faced as a woman in your industry? Is there been any challenges, and I guess how did you overcome these?
So it's funny because I do generally this time of year I do reflect on the challenges that I've experienced as a woman, and I did, as I said earlier, I think that challenges can be a good thing. But in this instance, we are talking about the challenges that are less positive and can have an impact on our choices to work at companies, our decisions, as you know, our confidence in how we work. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I hadn't had, experiences. And two stand out to me, which I do actually want to mention, and I normally don't because I always think they're a blip in history and they don't deserve that platform. But I actually think it's worth talking about because of the outcomes and what it led me to.
Yeah.
So, two examples. So the first one was just briefly, I was told once that because I don't have children, and at the time I didn't have a boyfriend, because I don't have a boyfriend, I can work late and I don't have to go home on time. And I was left on my own in that office with the male boss walking out and leaving me to it. And the second one was when I was working in agency, I'd recently delivered a quiz or a sort of a session, run a session, an all-male leadership team of a company invited by the client. And the feedback I'd got from another male colleague of the agency I worked in was that I'd been very inappropriate in my behaviour and how I'd conducted myself. Now, the first one, I voted with my feet and I left the company that night. I just walked out, packed my bags and went.
Good for you.
Thank you. And
Good
at
for
the
you.
time,
I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. I'm actually kind of shocked by that kind of comment. Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I look back now and he could have easily said that to a man. So, you know, maybe it was sexism, maybe it wasn't, who knows. But at the time, I felt really weak for giving up.
Yeah.
Actually, I look back now and I think, no, I just didn't settle for anything less than
Absolutely.
the best, which is respect. And I actually feel sorry for that person because it just sort of highlighted that he was just a bad manager. He lacked training, lacked empathy, and probably could have just done with better support to be a better version of himself.
Yeah.
So no hard feelings there, because it taught me to think, right, how can I be the best manager? What can I be learning? Second one was a few years on, and I felt a little bit more confident in myself. So the first thing I did was, because I had a great relationship with that client, I picked up the phone and I apologised to them and said, I've had some feedback. I'd like to apologise and perhaps ask you if you can give me some feedback on how that went. And that client, a man, was amazing. He was like, by the way, you've got 9 proposals coming out of that session, so I would say it was an all-round success. And he said that the person who has fed back to you was categorically wrong, and I'll put all this in an email. So I was lucky there, but I then felt empowered by him, so I escalated it to my mentor in the organisation, who was enraged and escalated it to a top senior level boss, a female. And unfortunately, that female came to me and was very, very kind about it, but said sexism exists and it's not going anywhere. And if you want to develop your career, you're going to have to harden up. Now, I know myself, that's not how I would answer and say to someone now. But I voted with my feet. You know, within 3 to 6 months, I left that company and I sought out an organisation with a much better culture, which I did. I found was great. But again, reflecting on those and thinking about the outcomes, I learned about how to be a better manager. And I also learned that, you know, we can stay and fight in these organisations and put all our effort in and drive change. And if anyone out there who is doing that, I commend them and I have huge respect for them. And please get in touch because I would love to learn from you. I personally don't have that fight in me. I will escalate and I will up manage and I will bring ideas. But I think sometimes if those people listening are not willing to be educated and are not willing to change, you have to protect yourself and ask yourself, is this a company I work for? So those are the challenges, specific challenges I've faced, and I'm hugely grateful for going through them, because I wouldn't be the leader I am, and I've still got loads of, lots to learn, but I wouldn't be the best version of myself to date, if it wasn't those experiences.
I mean, those kind of things that you've gone through is mind-blowing. I can't even begin to imagine, and good for you, Ali, just to be able to stand up and actually just get up and go, because no one should ever have to do that. And equally, as you say, and equally from a man's perspective, they shouldn't have to do the same, vice versa. So it's yeah, I'm absolutely blown as well that you managed to kind of overcome that, and obviously, as you say, learn so much about that and become the leader and the manager that you are today. So at least there's something that comes from it. So I guess from that side of things, what advice would you give to kind of like young women now, and or like just not even just young women, just women aspiring to enter into this industry, especially like the UX UI kind of like and UX research from your side of things?
Yeah, I think the first thing is probably given a quick description of what to expect. I think in the world of tech, you do have a lot of diversity because there are so many different roles. And yes, there are certain roles that are dominated by certain genders. It is changing, but engineering, for example, you see a lot more men in that space. Same with research, you tend to see a lot more women in that space. However, we are cross collaborators. So when you come together, you generally represent your role as the expert in the room. And then you have an opportunity to learn and listen to everyone around you. And from experience in my company as well, you tend to have a lovely balance of genders in there. So that's probably one thing, if you're looking for a balanced environment and, you're interested in, and this is how I always describe research, it's strategy, it's creativity and problem solving, and it's collaboration. And it's those three core areas that sort of matter. So if you're looking for something that, challenges you in that way, and you're open to sort of jumping on projects that you may have never dealt with before, new situations and problems, then research and design is definitely for you.
Yeah.
The advice is quite general, unless we talk specifically about, moving into the world of research. But the advice I have, again, thinking about International Women's Day, is don't settle for anything less than the best, and define those values in your core and then stick to them, obviously improve them and develop them. And for me, it's, respect, trust, kindness, collaboration. So for me, they are the deal breakers if that's not offered in an organisation. I think read as much as you can. I think because we're busy in our day-to-day jobs and life, we forget to sit down and read. I have in front of me 6 books on the go, and I pick them up, read a few chapters, put them back down again. So always be actively learning, and also surround yourself with diversity. There's a reason why a lot of studies out there talk about the risks with sitting still and surrounding yourself with the same faces. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for our personal growth. So look around your life, look around your team and think, are we all the same? Or do we have different personalities here? And then celebrate that one person in the room that's the debater, or that always has the different opinion. Because you need that. And then a few more thoughts. Keep in mind that men and women's brains, the same in terms of intelligence. There's no differences. So always have in your mind. Get a mentor. Listen to your recruiter, which I'm hoping Angela is good news for you. I honestly have had some wonderful recruiters over the years and it was similar to our experience together. You just enter my life at the right time with this advice. I don't know how you do it. You're all magical. You're all wizards. But listen to your recruiter because they have your best interests at heart. They want you to get that job, so they're going to give you the right advice. And then probably my last point is a bit strange, but treat your company like a date, because you've got to ask yourself, would you go on a second date with this company, or are there signs of abuse or kind of red flags? Because I think it's really easy for us to identify a walking red flag in a date.
Yeah.
Really hard when that flag is paying your wages.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of think objectively, is this company, does it have the best interests at heart for myself, for my standards? And if it doesn't, then go back to advice number one, which is don't settle for anything less.
Agreed, 100%. That's such good advice. I'd never actually thought of like thinking about a company being like a date, like a first date. I've never thought of that. That's a really interesting way to think about it. So loads of kind of key takeaways. I'm gonna throw another curveball in there for you, Aly. So apologies again. What is the one bit of advice, if you could give your younger self coming into the UX research world, as like kind of like a young kind of like as a woman coming in at the beginning of your career within the UX research and design world, what would the one bit of advice that you'd give your younger self?
Yeah, it's going to sound like a cliche because I switched to the world of UX properly, the world of tech 4 years ago. And this is huge cliche, but it's so true. Have confidence that you can do the job and aim higher, because similar to how I talked about those pivotal moments in my career, when I often sort of switched to a whole new challenge and a totally new environment, I would question my skills and abilities, and I would think, oh, what if I can't do it? I think I can do it, but I don't know for sure. I'd better not apply. And I'd always go for either the same role or even sometimes a lower role. And then, 2 weeks in, you think, oops, I can do this and I can do it quite well. Yeah. So actually, aim high. High. That's what I would say to my younger self. If you can't do it, then you ask for help, or you go to your mentor and go, help me navigate this problem I'm dealing with. That's what your manager's for. So yeah, it would be aim higher because you can do it. Yeah, someone's got to do it. Why not you?
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences, Aly. I'm sure we could be on here for like ages. We could be talking for hours and everything. Been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela, and no doubt speak to you soon, because we're always in contact.
Always in touch. Absolutely.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks, Ben, Aly. Thanks.